Severe weather, flash flooding, and a really rare fire risk for the Midwest for October 5th, 2025. Good morning, I'm meteorologist Pew, and starting with severe weather, we have a marginal risk, or 1 out of 5, specifically around the Oklahoma area and a little bit in Kansas. And what this entails is that we're going to see an isolated risk for both damaging winds and large hail. Though this won't happen for a minute, as storms are going to start initiating around 5 to 6 p.m. Central Time. And most of the intense storms are going to be in the Oklahoma-Kansas area, but these storms are also going to stretch all the way through the Midwest as well. And we're going to see consistent isolated to scattered showers to thunderstorms pretty much through the evening, through the night, and into next morning. And so with that being said, we do have a marginal flash flood risk for the plains and the Midwest. And again, just like yesterday, we still have that marginal flash flood risk for the Louisiana coast to the Florida Panhandle and also eastern Florida. And also just like yesterday, you guys are going to be seeing isolated to scattered heavy rain throughout the day, evening, and into the night. We still have these lingering low pressure systems both in the Gulf and in the Atlantic, and that's bringing a lot of easterly to southeasterly winds. And with that, it's affecting a lot of moisture into these areas, and areas that are already hot above 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So we know that these areas are very buoyant and very unstable. But for the plains and Midwest, it's a totally different story. So if we look at 500 millibars, a midway through the troposphere, that negatively tilted trough that we saw yesterday, it's kind of dissipated in terms of its shape, so it's very much more broad. But despite that, we still have a lot of strong shear, especially from the northern plains all the way down to the southern plains. And because we have really strong wind speeds aloft and it's southwesterly, we're going to have a lot of hot air being transported from the south into the plains and Midwest. Now, ahead of these strong winds, there is extremely dry air. And looking at the Midwest specifically, there is a decent amount of shear, and that should be sufficient enough for the mixing of the boundary layer between the mid levels and the low levels. So going down to the low levels at the surface, we do have a surface low pressure somewhere around the northern plains to upper Midwest. And that's going to deepen this afternoon, which means that the pressure gradient is going to increase, which is going to increase the surface wind. And so throughout the plains and the Midwest, we're going to see wind speeds from about 15 to 20 miles per hour. And these wind speeds are going to increase around 1 p.m. Central Time to around 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time. And so also at the surface, we have southwesterly winds. And with the mixing of the boundary layer between that dry air aloft and the surface, it's going to be sinking in a lot of dry air into the Midwest, specifically in northern Illinois. And so from the time frame about 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time, we're going to see relative humidities around 20 to 30%, which is relatively low. And then not to mention, if we look at satellite imagery, we can see that we have pretty much clear skies throughout the plains and the Midwest. And so that's going to bring in a lot of diurnal heating and more surface heating. So one, it's going to make the air really unstable, especially in places in those marginal risk areas for severe weather. But for places like northern Illinois, because it's not very moist, but it's going to be hot, it's going to be more susceptible for fire.